question. Hey Kim, I listened to your talk about non-duality, number 16. You can find it in my playlist about non-duality. And I have a different issue. I have a thought similar to nothing is real, there's no purpose. And it goes like this. Life is very short. Why even try to make any contribution or seek to change the world? And yeah, I understand where this idea comes from. Because obviously you look at life and you look at the world and you can say, I only have such a short time here, the world is so big, what is the chance that I could change anything or make any kind of contribution here? And there are two things I would say about this. First of all, I think you can really only feel this way if you don't accept reincarnation. Because if you accept reincarnation, you realize that, yeah, life may be short in this particular incarnation, but since you have an ongoing process of going from one body to the next, what you do in this life actually has an important and essential influence on what happens to you in the future. So therefore, you could say that even if you feel that this lifetime is short and you feel powerless to really do anything about the world, you could say, but even if you can't achieve anything important in this lifetime, what if you could set a better foundation for your next lifetime? I'm not talking about here changing the world. I'm talking about raising your own consciousness, because this is also what the person seems to be implying, that what's the point in trying to raise my own consciousness when life is so short? And there are some of these non-dual teachers out there that's, as far as I can tell, they're denying reincarnation. They're basically saying, this is it. You have one shot here, which is basically what Christianity has been saying for 1700 years, and materialism is saying as well. And if you don't accept reincarnation, I don't know how I can help you get over this feeling, right? Because you only have this one short lifetime and that's it. But the way I look at it is that whatever I can do in this lifetime to raise my consciousness will improve my next lifetime. But it's not just a matter of an endless string of incarnations, because there is actually a potential end to your process of incarnating, and that's what I call the ascension, where you can, so to speak, graduate from schoolroom earth and you don't have to come back into embodiment here. And if life on this planet seems to be a struggle or not have much meaning, then can't you get a sense of meaning from the potential you can get out of here instead of having to come back? Because the idea of reincarnation is also, if you don't raise your consciousness in this lifetime, you will come back in your next lifetime with the same level of consciousness. And it'll be déjà vu all over again. You will just experience life as a struggle then in the next lifetime as you do in this lifetime. So this is one thing. I think if you really accept reincarnation, you see that life does have a purpose, and part of the purpose is to raise your own consciousness so you can do better in your next lifetime and eventually escape the reincarnation process. The other thing I would say about changing the world, I understand that you can, of course, you can look at the whole world and you can look at what's going on and say, what influence do I have on this? All this uncertainty that's going on in the world right now, how could I possibly influence that? But the first thing I would say is that if everybody had said that, how would we be living right now? We would be living like people did in the Stone Age. The reason why we have progressed is that some people said, maybe there's something I can do that will improve the world. And you have this old story, it's just a little bit of a cliche, but there's a man who's walking on the beach after a storm. And he sees all these thousands and thousands of starfish that have been washed up by the storm. And then as he walks further, he sees a man ahead of him, and he's bending down, picking something up, walking out to the water and throwing it out in the water. When he comes closer, he sees he's bending down, taking a starfish and throwing it out in the ocean. And he goes up to him and said, what are you doing? There are millions of these. what you're doing doesn't make any difference. And the guy picks up a starfish, throws it in the ocean and said, it makes a difference. It made a difference to that one. And the principle there is that anything we can do is going to help the world move forward, how insignificant it may seem. But there's also a significance on your personal life, which is explained in Jesus' parable about the talents. 3 servants are given different numbers of talents by the master. Master goes away, comes back, and asks them, what have you done with the talents? And 2 had multiplied the talents, and they received more. The 3rd had buried in the ground, and the talents were taken away from him. So the principle there is, whoever you are, whatever your outer situation is, there's always something you can do to improve your own life or the life of others. And when you do that, you will receive more energy, more spiritual light from your higher self. Your talents will be multiplied as you multiply what you were given. And therefore, you are constantly improving yourself. Now, I understand that if you come from a non-duality background, you can dispute all of this, you can deny it, because some of these non-dual teachers will make it seem like there is nothing that you need to do. Life really has no purpose. You don't really exist. Yourself isn't real. And you just need to awaken from the dream and return back into infinite awareness, or however they express it. And I understand this, but I'm just saying, okay, but why are you asking this question? Is it not because you want to get over this feeling that nothing matters and that you don't matter? So what I'm saying is, if these non-dual teachings are just making you depressed and you can't function in life and nothing matters, perhaps it's time to look for something else. Perhaps it's time to open your mind to the potential that there could be higher spiritual teachings that don't leave you feeling depressed and useless and that life has no meaning. That actually can give your life a sense of meaning. Because personally, I think that some of these teachings, they just put people in a spiritual vacuum. And what are these people doing? They're essentially sitting there listening to these teachers, waiting to die. Because the assumption is that when you die, your individual self will be dissolved into infinite awareness and your suffering is going to be over. And it's such a nihilistic view of life that I have trouble understanding how people can promote this kind of view and then, number one, say this is spiritual, and number 2, say this is the ultimate spiritual understanding. I really have trouble making sense of this in my mind. And how can you say the highest possible teachings, the highest possible spiritual teaching is that everything is meaningless? And you should just sit down and wait to die. I mean, come on. Where's the spiritual spark in that? Where's the spiritual fire? And where's the enthusiasm for the fact that it's simply a miracle beyond miracles that you exist as a self-aware being? And that you have the potential to expand your sense of self rather than denying it and waiting for it to dissolve. And I can assure you that these spiritual teachers are going to be very surprised when their body dies and they find that they didn't disappear back into infinite awareness, but there's going to be somebody there saying, you've got to go back down. You didn't get it. You didn't get the lesson. You're being enrolled in the school again. And I don't know. I don't know what else you can say, because I have seen so many times on a spiritual path that spiritual people get themselves into the state of mind where they feel now they have the ultimate understanding of the spiritual aspect of life. And therefore they completely close their minds to any higher understanding. And personally, my view is, never do that. Never close your mind to that there could be a higher understanding somewhere. Because I guarantee you there is. If you are embodied on Earth, which is a very dense planet, there is a higher understanding that's possible. I don't care who you are. They always refer to Ramana Maharshi or this teacher or that teacher. But Ramana Maharshi had not attained the ultimate state of consciousness that can be reached. I didn't know him, I didn't meet him. Perhaps he had reached an ultimate state of consciousness that can be reached on earth, but beyond that are higher states of consciousness. It's simply not true that you can reach the highest possible state of consciousness while you're in embodiment on earth, and that after that there's just the dissolution of self into infinite awareness, nothingness, or Brahman. It's just not the way it is. And if you believe that, it's a belief. It's not, as I've said in several of my non-duality videos, it's not experiential. And it's simply because you haven't experienced that there are beings in the spiritual realm who have a fundamentally higher state of consciousness than we have here on earth, than we ever could have here on earth.